Tova.
Welcome. If you'll find a place to be seated. We're so excited to start the new year with all of you. We're so happy that you're here and to share in this wonderful holiday season that we begin tonight together. We're excited to welcome home Cantor Patti Linsky, to welcome our Yonta to be with us. And once again, under the direction of Dr. Lorry Black, our musicians, we're so happy that you're here. Thank you for all you've done. And a little change from last year. Last year, the person to my right and your left was but a mere rabbinical student. But he grew up. And so we are so proud to have our Rabbi Max Chaiken, also with us. And we're happy to have all of you here with us. It's joyful to see you, to welcome you home to Kol Ami. We begin together in strength. We begin together, Ozi v'zimrat ya v'hili l'shua. We sing together from the Book of Psalms.
Ozi v'zimrat ya with words that are really a refrain in this season. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha. God, return us to you, v'nashuva, and we shall be returned. Chadesh Yamenu Kekedem, renew our days as days of old. It's sort of like we imagine our days that they once were, and we imagine that the past is this rose-colored thing that we want to return to. We really want to return and renew our days as new days and bring that vision, that beautiful ideal, that dream of what once was with us as we move forward. We're going to sing together this melody we've been learning over the past few months at our home over on La Brea. And we're going to make sure everyone can join in as we go. Ashivenu Adonai, Adonai Elecha, Elecha, v'nashuva, Kadesh Yameinu, Kekedem, Kekedem. Let's go again. Hashivenu, Hashivenu.
those of you that have been here for many years how we do this, but there's lots of new people this year, so forgive me for explaining for just a moment. Those of you that have been given an honor to participate, we'll call you in groups to sit in the front row so you're close and have close access to the bima. So at this time, to the front row, I'd like to invite Hope Faust, Sue Igdaloff, Frank Ellison, and Steve Jacobson. If you would join us here in the front row so you have easy access during when you're called to the bima. And right now, I'd like to invite to help us light our holiday candles the newest group in our congregation that Rabbi Chaiken is working with, members of our Open Yad Council. You're going to hear more about the Open Yad project, our Young Adults Engagement Council. So to light our candles and to start us off, Jake Perlman, Leonard Slutsky, and Evan Rollins, Abby Goodman, Andrew Reback, and Rebecca Sturz, if you join us here on the bima to help us light our holiday candles, and you can see the next generation of Kolami leadership. Friends, we light candles. If you'll turn in your prayer books, you can follow along on page 10.
Creation's brightest light, the mystics say, was hidden at the dawn of time. But on this sacred night, this night of hope and joy, a glimmer of that light is here. In candles flame, in children's eyes, in eyes aglow with wisdom's light, it shines in the faces of the ones we love. In grateful hearts, in tears of loss, it lives in memories of goodness and in our desire to do right, to try again, to build anew, to ask forgiveness and make peace. We enter this new year and look upon the beauty of these lights, so may the day of awe renew the light within us.
Page 11.
No?
Yeah,
There we go.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel yom tov.
Amen.
Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, teaching us holiness through sacred obligations, giving us the mitzvah of bringing light on this festival.
Amen.
Baruch
Go ahead.
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehahiyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, giving us life, upholding the life within us, and bringing us to this time.
Page 15. The signature of Rosh Hashanah is Yom Teruah, the day of sounding of the horn. And so as we join together, we hear the sound of the shofar to call us to prayer, to call us into community with one another. I invite you to stand as we read together. Abby and Hope and Lorry will come here. תיכו בחודש שופר וכיסא ליום הגנו כי חוך לישראל הוא משפט אלוהי יעקב. At the new moon, at the full moon, for our feast day, sound the shofar, for that is the law of Israel, the way of the God of Jacob. praise God with the blast of the shofar. Together, Baruch atah Adonai, shomea kol truah, amo Yisrael berachamim. Blessed are you in our lives, Adonai. You hear with love the shofar, true voice of your people, Israel. Tekiah! We take a moment now and thank our shofar sounders who will be back with us. We remain standing and invite Frank Ellison, Steve Jacobson, and Sue Igdaloff to the bima as they open our ark. As we prepare to hear the Hineni prayer on page 17, the Hineni prayer, so important because this is an opportunity for your clergy to offer our prayers and confession before the ark so that you're not held responsible for our sins. You're not held responsible for our omissions or our errors. So would you help us be prepared to lead you in worship during this season? Page 17, if you all will open the ark together. Standing for the Baruch Hu.
Praying together on page 23. Please join me in English. Bless Adonai who spins day into dusk. With wisdom watch the dawn gates open. With understanding that time and seasons come and go. With awe perceive the stars in lawful orbit. Morning dawns, evening darkens, darkness and light yielding one to the other, yet each distinguished and unique. Marvel at life, strive to know its ways. Seek wisdom and truth, the gateways to life's mysteries. Wondrous indeed is the evening twilight. Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Arabim. Blessed are you, Adonai, creator of twilight and dark. We continue joining together in song for Ahavat Olam, page 24. Rise together for Shema, page 26. Please be seated. As we join together now in Ve'ahavta, you can find the words to the melody by Julie Silver on the screen above. The translation, of course, of the traditional words from the book of Deuteronomy. Love Adonai your God with all your with all your soul, and with all your mind. And these words which I command you on this day We continue praying responsibly on the top of page 33. To break the bonds of anger, to be generous of heart, to break the bonds of shame together, to live with self-respect, to break the bonds of envy, to serve one another in joy, to break the bonds of boredom, to be attentive to all God's gifts, to break the bonds of fear, to live with courage and strength, to untie the knots of betrayal, to love with fullness of being, to break the bonds of loneliness, to receive a hand of hope, to break the bonds of self-centeredness, to extend a hand of help. Released from the darkness, our people found their freedom at the sea, and we pray for liberation at the dawning of this year. Our prayer, Michamocha, the middle of page 34, is really that blessing of wonder and astonishment at the one who broke our first bonds of slavery and led us into freedom. Let's join together and pray on page 34. Page 35. Let's pray together. There were no signs. By walking, I found out where I was going. By intensely hating, how to love. By loving, whom and what to love. By grieving, how to laugh from the belly. Out of infirmity, I have built strength. Out of untruth, truth. From hypocrisy, I wove directness. Almost now I know who I am. Almost I have the boldness to be that man. Another step, and I shall be where I started from. We continue up the screen above in the words of Hashkivenu. They're words we've been learning together for some time, and they're words of protection and shelter. And it seems to me that at this time in the life of our country and the life of each one of us, we can really use this call for protection. We can use a reminder to be that protection for one another in every way we can.
Amen.
Hatzi Kaddish on page 40.
יתקטר ויתקדש שמי רבה ועמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל בעגלו בזמן קריב וימרו Don Margolin and Jack Egan, if you join us in the front row at this time. We come now on page 42 to the tefillah, the central prayers of our tradition, the time where we stand before God as one people and one community, and we support each other in our prayers. Some we do together, some we'll do on our own. Some will do silently and some will do aloud. But together, that is the most operative word. We rise, turning to page 42 for the tefillah. Page 44, we continue with the chanting of the Avot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotzeinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah
Rabbi,
סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממיד ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו וחיים ברחמים. ונאמן אתה החיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני בחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע.
Please be seated. We're going to try something a little different for our tefillah tonight. So I'm going to ask you to kind of close your prayer book for a minute, your mafsul. Get comfortable in your seat. For those of you that say I'm not a kumbaya kind of person, just relax. Because what is prayer? Prayer is an opportunity to open our hearts. Prayer is an opportunity to be in touch with your inner self in hopes that you can be a little more vulnerable, a little more open to the divine presence in the world. So we're going to join together and think about holiness tonight, because this section of our service is about bringing down holiness from heaven through you into the world. So take a couple deep breaths with me. We're going to meditate together. Congregation Kolamim is going to meditate on holiness tonight. Because if ever there was a time this world needs all of us
channel more holiness in this world. So please take a deep breath. Get comfortable, put your feet on the floor, loosen your arms, open your hearts, close your eyes, breathe in and out. Together, we visit, we bring holiness from heaven. And where does holiness live in Jewish tradition? It's lived in the walls of synagogues. More than 25 centuries, the synagogue has held the place of our hopes and our dreams, dating back to ancient Babylonia. So close your eyes and drift back through the centuries. And think about synagogues, large and small throughout our history. Places perhaps your grandparents lived and prayed. Places that ancestors on your family tree that you've traced way back. Maybe in Poland, maybe in Rhodes, maybe in Israel, maybe in Russia, maybe in Argentina. Grand, beautiful buildings, maybe small wooden shacks. In each and every shtetl or village, there was a prayer room. And if they were lucky, a Torah scroll, holding our people's teachings, holding our people's ideals. And as they read and they sang their melodies, whether Ashkenazic or Sephardic or Yemenite, or maybe in good old Brooklynese, they brought holiness and respect, a sense of reverence, a sense of honor into their lives and into the sacred walls of their prayer space. See them. See our people in their prayer rooms. Feel them singing the Avinu Malkeinu like we will soon. A shofar sounding. Wander through the books that perhaps were on the walls. A Sinur, a Talmud, a Midrash, a Kabbalah, mysticism of Zohar. Or perhaps they couldn't read it all. But the words they formed were authentic in their hearts. Avinu Shebashamayim, O Heavenly One, help me be a better person in this year. Let me channel your Torah, the Torah of the heart, the Torah of your soul. See if you can feel them now in your heart. To the Jews in the synagogues, it was more important to meditate on the sacred psalms, Tehillim, in order to achieve holiness, rather than memorize the dates of Roman history. To them, the Beit Midrash, the house of study, was important because the world needed it. The world was important because there was a house of study in it. In an unredeemed world, our ancestors strove only to make more beautiful souls, not amass great wealth or power. Even if they lived in grinding poverty, they didn't mind as long as they could speak with their God. When the heart of the Jew turned to God, no enemy could affect it. The Jew knew that in the eyes of the Melech Malachim, the ruler of all rulers, no secular king or queen really had sway over their lives. They were princes themselves in God's world, children of their Creator. See them, embrace them, and feel their strength. The keys to these great synagogues of the past still lies within our possession. To open their doors, all we need to do is open our hearts. The treasure of Jewish spirituality is still available to us all, just as it was in the past. Breathe in and breathe out. And feel God filling up your empty spaces, filling it with the holiness, the sanctity within you. Now stay with this feeling of transcendence and bask in the glow of holiness, Kedusha, that we share as we create this moment together. And if you have a prayer you need to say tonight, breathe in and out and say it now. And whenever you're ready, breathe in and breathe out. And open your eyes as we join together and continue in prayer. We join at the bottom of 57. This is the prayer God utters. May my mercy conquer my anger. In all my action toward my children, may my compassion prevail. And this is the prayer I say. Compassionate One, rule over me today and always. Let mercy and forgiveness hold sway, and let the good within me prevail. We join together at the top of page 59. Help me to serve you truly with purity of heart. When I hear hateful or degrading speech, let me focus on good words and worthy thoughts. When my worst instincts cause me torment, teach me to care for myself and for others. In tough waters and misfortune, let me harbor patience and strength. Make my soul a sanctuary that your light may dwell within me. Align all my acts in pursuit of goodness, so may I be a vessel of holiness, serving you with purity and truth. Page 61. May the hands of our brothers and sisters who cherish the dust of our land, all of them, wherever they are, be strong. Do not give up in spirit, in joy, and in song. Come together as one for the sake of our people. Page 63, we join together. In the name of the daybreak and the eyelids of morning, and the wayfaring moon and the night when it departs, I swear I will not dishonor my soul with hatred, but offer myself humbly as a guardian of nature, as a healer of misery, as a messenger of wonder, as an architect of peace. In the name of the sun and its mirrors, and the day that embraces it, and the clouds veil drawn over it, and the uttermost night, and the male and the female, and the plants bursting with seeds, and the crowning seasons of the firefly and the apple, I will honor all life, wherever and in whatever form it may dwell on earth, my home, and in the mansions of the stars. We pray for peace, page 66.
Shalom.
for silent prayer and reflection. The words of your own heart through page 71. Ifri Sharei Refuah, open for us the gates of healing. Tonight, as we begin this new year together, we think of those in our families and communities who need our prayers. Refuah nefesh, refuah guf, the healing of spirit and body. We call to mind these our family and friends: Gary Ashland, Henry Assad, Vivian Bernard, Elaine Blatt, Claire Cohen, Dale Cooley, Taylor Dawkins, Jane Drucker, Wayne Fuchs, Zeus Goldberg, Allison Knopf, Lori Glickman, Daniel Groover, Katie Hooper, Lisa Irvin, Lori Cricken, Jeffrey Lehman, Jack Levin, Jim Leah, Ann May Van Lowen, Nancy Palmer, Richard Mendoza, Richard Cheesley, Sandra Smith, Laura Weisberg Sweetman, Amir Taller, Patty Vincent Guerra, Bill Walter, Ruth Williams, Nancy Wortman, Ken and Natalie Young, and all those that you would like to include in this prayer of healing, if you would say their name aloud or your own name tonight. Shema Kolenu, hear our prayer and bring your healing presence, Divine One, to touch the lives of all who call upon you. Teach us to be your messengers of kindness and love and blessing, and grant your healing power. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Holi, praised are you, God, who heals the sick, and let us say, Amen. To the Bima, Dr. Aaron Arano and Mike Garza, Don Margolin, and Jack Egan, if you'll join us before the Ark. And to the front row, we'd like to call Michael Sugar at this time. We turn now for Avinu Malkeinu, page 75. When the Ark is open, I'll invite you to please rise. And join me responsively on page 75.
Stood before you in a time of drought, and his words went up like flame on the altar.
Together,
Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our ruler. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion for us. 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 He was humble and forgiving, so his prayer was answered. Tonight we speak again in a time of drought. Dry ground beneath us, no water, only rock.
Not a hunger for bread or a thirst for water, but hearts that are longing to hear God's voice.
For the sea of faith is all but gone. The tide's gone out on the empty beach. The world mocks our hopes, and life tests our courage.
Why do the wicked live on and prosper? Why are you silent when they prey on the innocent?
And if your dominion is kindness and justice, why is creation in so much pain? Avinu Malkeinu, sustain our souls. Send rain to our roots. Help us find a way to pray.
Make us humble and forgiving of ourselves and one another.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew these words. Help us speak them with conviction and believe their truth. 100 generations have stood before the ark, and they lifted up their voices like flame on the altar. And they put their trust in kindness and justice, and they gave their strength to make the promise real.
Avinu Malkeinu,
we haven't forgotten you.
Avinu Malkeinu, bring us back to you.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatamnu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol aleinu, Va'al aleinu, V'ta'aleinu.
Please be seated. Okay, when you have a short rabbi and a tall rabbi, and you only have one podium, give us 1 second.
Shana Tova. Why be Jewish? 3 words and a question mark startled and surprised me. My classmate had just asked our entire community of rabbinic students and faculty this shocking question. At first, I wasn't sure I heard him correctly. Why be Jewish? Aren't we in rabbinical school? What kind of question is that? I had never been asked so directly why I was Jewish. And to be fair, it may seem like a bizarre question to many of you too. But this year, this is the question that the shofar calls us all to answer with vigor, creativity, and imagination. Now, some of you might argue that you didn't choose to be Jewish. I was born Jewish. There was no choice involved. You respond that you're Jewish because your parents were Jewish and your grandparents before them. Being Jewish is just part of your religious and cultural heritage that you never chose, much like you never chose your eye color or your place of birth. And if you became Jewish through conversion, of course, you might have a different answer. After all, converting to Judaism typically requires a lengthy process of learning and self-discovery before ever you set foot in the immersive waters of the mikvah. You observed holidays and tried out new rituals. You spoke with many people, possibly including bewildered family members, and definitely including long-winded rabbis. And after all that, you still decided to commit yourself to Judaism. So I would imagine you could articulate why. And regardless of whether you have Jewish ancestry, you might respond to the question, why be Jewish, by sharing that you want to ensure the survival of Jews and Judaism. You root for us as an underdog of history, as the perpetual survivors of persecution. And that response is what Emil Fackenheim, the 20th century philosopher, calls the 614th commandment, not to hand Hitler a posthumous victory. And of course, that may resonate with many of you. But my friends, as true as any of these answers may be, that you were born Jewish, or engaged in a long process of conversion, or that you care about our survival, none of them are enough if we can't articulate why Judaism should survive. Whatever Jewish journey has led you to this room tonight, make no mistake about it, we are all Jews by choice. Think about it. Instead of being anywhere else on this Sunday night, you chose to bring in the Jewish New Year. You chose to reconnect with community and with the spirit of the universe.
Thank you.
But I'm guessing that many of you didn't stop to ask yourselves, why be Jewish? You see, my classmate suggested that answering this question requires us to state the value proposition for being Jewish. The business world uses value propositions to describe the value that customers get when purchasing a good or service. Applied here to Judaism, it refers to the value that being Jewish and doing Jewish can bring to our lives. And while I don't usually like to think of Judaism as something to be consumed or transacted in, the fact of the matter is that our communities and institutions have a lot of competition in American society today. So we must be able to advocate for and demonstrate the meaning and the value that Judaism brings to our lives and to the world. Don't worry. In a few minutes, I am going to share with you 3 of my answers to the question, why be Jewish? Because the stakes are too high to obfuscate or engage in that classic rabbinic practice of answering a question with another question. But before I do, I want to recognize that some of you may still not quite agree that we have a choice. You think, Jews haven't always had a choice about being Jewish. You think, we've always been a persecuted minority, kicked out of nearly every country we've ever lived in. Who would choose such a thing? And sadly, you can read our history this way. We need look no further than the horrors of the 20th century. It's true, the Nazis did not care how one defined herself. Anyone with a Jewish grandparent was a Jew, whether they practiced Judaism or not. Our people were the targets of hatred and violence merely because of our heritage. And I acknowledge that today in the United States, this argument may even deserve new scrutiny, as we have seen a resurgence in anti-Semitism casting a long, dark shadow on our ability to choose our Jewishness. But there's another way to read our history too. Because being Jewish, practicing Judaism and using it to bring meaning to our lives has always required a choice. In the time of the Maccabees, many Israelites took Greek names and customs as their own, effectively converting out. In the Middle Ages, later during the Spanish Inquisition, many chose conversion out of Judaism, rather than risking their lives to maintain Jewish practices. So those who did maintain their customs most certainly chose Judaism. Our sacred texts also insist on our need to choose, even when it comes to choosing Torah. You see, the logic goes that if we hadn't chosen the covenant, we would have no incentive to keep it. You don't stay in relationships that you didn't choose in the first place. One Talmudic tale even suggests that the Israelites were coerced, but the rabbi's response reveals just how highly they valued our freedom to choose. Newly freed from Egypt, we wandered through the desert to our first stop at Sinai. But the revelation at Sinai describes a terrifying scene. Our leader had to ascend the mountain, which itself was surrounded by lightning and thunder, not at all like this mountain. Clouds and even the sound of the shofar. And the text states that when Moses took us to the mountain, we stood betachtit hahar, literally underneath the mountain. With such frightening images, one rabbi taught that this phrase, underneath the mountain, meant that God held the mountain itself literally over our heads, coercing us to accept the covenant or accept the grave. Sounds like an offer we couldn't refuse. But even that appearance of coercion leads the very same passage to continue that in the time of Esther, our people willingly and freely accepted the covenant once again. We once again chose to be Jewish. And today here in the United States, we have more choice than ever in history. We live in a time and place of unprecedented fluidity and flexibility in religious identity. 5 years ago, when the Pew Research Center published its landmark survey of Jewish American identity, it found that among Jews born after 1980, some 30% of them identified as Jews of no religion. But the very same study reminds us that that shift in Jewish self-identification reflects broader changes in the U.S. public as a whole. Americans increasingly forgo any religious affiliation. Now, these Jews of no religion might identify as spiritual but not religious, or they might embrace their cultural heritage. You know, the one which leads them to crave matzo ball soup on Passover and Chinese food on Christmas. But effectively, they're not choosing Judaism. So for us, Jews by choice, who believe that Judaism should not only survive, but can in fact thrive in the 21st century, we must return to the question, however uncomfortable it may be, why be Jewish? What is the value proposition for Judaism in the contemporary world? Only by answering this question for ourselves will we be able to advocate for the survival of Judaism or any given Jewish institution, including our very own Kolami. So without further delay, here are 3 of my responses to the question. First, Judaism helps me create holiness in time. From the very first chapter of Torah, our sacred text gives meaning and order to time. Our creation myth describes an order of days, which we know are really epics of creation. But they lead to God blessing time itself and resting on the first Shabbat. In turn, our practice of Shabbat and our cycle of holidays reflect this process. Our holy times and seasons offer us the chance to appreciate the spark of divinity in our creating, our making, our doing. But they also remind us to pause and focus our time on being. Compare this with American culture today. We work and work and work, rarely resting. We take fewer vacation days than most other developed nations of the world. We are continually pushed to produce deliverables and to quantify every minute we've put into the job. We're so busy with doing and making and producing that we all too often forget to focus on being. So Judaism offers a powerful antidote. Make time holy. Recognize its finite nature and refuse to take it for granted. Our time on this earth is limited, but do not despair. We celebrate and choose life by marking holiness in the passage of our precious time on this planet. In his classic work, The Sabbath, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel puts it this way: Judaism is a religion of time, aiming at the sanctification of time. There are no 2 hours alike. Every hour is unique and endlessly precious. We don't need to feel lonely or rudderless as we navigate the waves of life in search of purpose and direction. Our sacred times and seasons offer us a compass, helping us actively create meaning as we sail the ocean of our lives. So why be Jewish? Because Judaism helps me create holiness in time. The second value proposition I offer tonight is that Judaism insists that we question and interpret. Our struggles and questioning of God are even built into one of our names, Yisrael. In a moment of solitude and fear, Jacob found himself alone, wrestling with a strange figure who blesses him with the name Yisrael, because he has struggled with God and with people. But questioning God is just the beginning. We're the people of the Talmud, a text that's more interested in good questions than answers. Our tradition has long wondered about the gaps in our holy texts, and those musings and ponderings led to interpretations, to the development of new texts and traditions. Some of our most cherished historical figures, from Maimonides to Einstein, propelled questions and critical thinking as the way to improve ourselves and the world around us. But the culture we live in prides itself on knowledge, on always being right. We are often afraid to ask questions if we think we ought to know the answer already. We seclude ourselves in ideological silos, in bubbles that reinforce our pre-existing biases and ideas. It has become rare to even interact with, let alone have a meaningful conversation with people who think differently than we do. But our sacred tradition calls us to question what we know, to challenge our assumptions, and sharpen our minds to help improve the world around us. So, why be Jewish? Because Judaism insists that we question and interpret. My third answer may be the most fundamental of all. Judaism requires strong relationships. Our tradition cannot be practiced alone. Of course, we do value each and every human being, each one created in the divine image, each one infinitely precious, a world unto themselves. Yet Judaism insists that when we build relationships with one another, we bring the divine presence with us. We become something greater. And sadly, this value too is all too often lacking in American society today. Everything caters to the individual. Everything becomes a customizable commodity delivered at the precise time and the precise quantity you need. It's pretty convenient, I'll admit, but it's also pretty isolating. Social media is perhaps the biggest culprit. The culture of social media teaches us to express ourselves, to brand ourselves, to hope we go viral. It does not teach us to listen to others, to look into the face of the person next to you, to hear their story, to love your neighbor. So for a third time, why be Jewish? Because Judaism requires strong relationships. In a society where we are often tempted to go it alone, Judaism reminds us to double down on relationships and community. Those are three of my value propositions for Judaism, boiled down to a sweet, simple syrup. 1, Judaism helps me create holiness in time. 2, Judaism insists that we question and interpret. 3, Judaism requires strong relationships. Our tradition offers a unique approach to each of these, and throughout the generations, our ancestors propelled Judaism to survive not just for survival's sake, but because they knew that our sacred tradition contained such powerful ideas. This year, I imagine a world where we take these values along with our own answer and recommit to choosing Judaism. I imagine a community built from these foundations, in which all of us are able to answer, why be Jewish? With confidence and pride. These very values, you see, have already guided me in my work with the Open Yad project. As some of you know, one of my roles as your assistant rabbi has been to launch this program for building community amongst folks in our 20s, 30s, and 40s in West Hollywood, and on the East Side. From the beginning of my rabbinic internship 2 years ago, though, when Rabbi Eger first charged me with focusing on this kind of engagement, we knew that in order to build something meaningful and sustainable, it had to start with the most basic building block of community: strong relationships. That process takes time. It takes attention to the rhythms of our lives and concern for the seasons in the lives of others. But what's more, over the past several months, as we've organized and officially launched our efforts as the Open Yad Project, we've used these values of marking a holiness in time and the importance of questioning to guide the development of our programs. Last month, for instance, we hosted our first Havdalah event in what we hope will become a monthly spiritual experience. The only purpose of Havdalah, though, is to mark the passage from one moment to the next. Havdalah literally means separation, because it separates between two moments in time. It marks the passage from a Shabbat of being and rest back into our busy work week of doing and making. So in choosing to use Havdalah as our signature program, we're demonstrating that uniquely powerful way that Judaism marks holiness in time. Similarly, with the importance of questioning, we're hoping to launch a series of pop-up learning events in October. While these programs will aim to extend an open hand, literally an open yad, to new prospective community members, the concept grows naturally from that cycle of questioning, wondering, and reshaping our world in response to those questions. The further I go along this path of building community and developing the Open Yad project, the more grateful I am that I have stopped to ask myself, why be Jewish? Because when we ask ourselves that question, we give ourselves permission to imagine new answers, and to imagine ourselves and our world transformed by the beauty and wisdom of our sacred tradition. As we usher in this new year, I pray that you too will ask yourselves, why be Jewish? I hope that you will explore your own answers to this vital question, and I hope that your presence here tonight will be the first choice in recommitting for yourselves and for this community to choose Judaism, to choose the ways that our sacred tradition will bring meaning and transformation to your lives. Yes, I hope that Judaism and the Jewish people survive. And I believe that we work towards that vision when we remind ourselves and our loved ones why we ought to survive. As we bring in this new year, 5779, we recommit to passing our tradition, Lidor Vador, from one generation to the next. And let us do that by responding with certainty, with love, with patience, and with imagination when we ask each other, why be Jewish? Shana Tova.
the bima tonight, it's my privilege to introduce leaders of our congregation, Dr. Marilyn Eger and her wife Karen Shanbrom, and Marilyn's a longtime member and a member of our executive committee. Peter Mackler, a member of our executive committee, also a longtime member. In the back row behind here, I don't know if you can see, William Weinberger, past president and current board member. Andrew Reback, a board member of our congregation and active in our Vineyard project. And a longtime board member, Jeff Whitman, and his husband, Peter Balderas. And it's my privilege to introduce to you Richard Bernard, the member of our executive committee of our board, to bring you greetings on behalf of the Board of Trustees.
Shana Tova. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of Congregation Kol Ami, we'd like to welcome you to Erev Rosh Hashanah and wish you a sweet and happy New Year. We're so happy you've chosen to welcome the New Year with Kol Ami. We especially want to welcome all those who have joined us for the first time, and we'd ask you to please stand so that we can welcome you properly. So it's going to be the first one.
Hey, welcome.
I also know there are a few folks who are returning after several years of not being here, and we welcome you as well. I'd like to thank our wonderful musicians under the leadership of Dr. Lorry Black and our high holiday greeters. Thank you for our ritual committee pillar and wonderful office staff who have contributed so much to making our high holidays so special. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Rabbi Eger, Rabbi Chaiken, and Cantor Linsky for what are wonderful services and what will be wonderful services. Tonight, following services in the lobby, we want to welcome you to special Rosh Hashanah Oneg. We thank you. We want to thank the sponsors, Evan Cohn, Carrie Davidson, and Andrew Ogilvie, Alvin Gross, Lauren Ostro, and Brian Newkirk. And we want to thank those who sponsored our holiday bima flowers, Carrie Davidson, Andrew Ogilvie, Richard Frank, Lauren Ostro, and Brian Newkirk. And those who sponsored our music and visual tefillah, Carrie Davidson, Andrew Ogilvie, Lauren Ostro, Brian Newkirk, Steve Addison, David Kaminsky, and Patrick Orbach. And thank you to Lauren Ostro and Brian Newkirk, who sponsored tomorrow's family services. If you haven't turned in your Yisker page, please do so no later than tonight by the end of services. Forms are available in the foyer. There's so much going on at Kol Ami. You'll notice that we have a fairly thick this year a book of announcements and activities. Please read it. There's one thing I wanted to highlight. We have a table in the lobby related to our civic engagement campaign. We need volunteers to help register new voters. If you ever thought an election was important, this is one of them. So please vote, and please get as many people as you know to vote. Your say matters. Please join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. for Rosh Hashanah here at Harmony Gold. Please remember that Tuesday, September 11th, the second day of Rosh Hashanah, will be at Kol Ami. Shabbat services will be at 8 p.m. on Friday night, and Yom Kippur schedules are available in your bulletin and on our website. Kol Ami is observing Tashlik at Will Rogers State Beach this year. This is a ceremony of casting away our sins. Meet us at Tower 8 on Saturday, September 12th, starting at 4 p.m. for an evening of family fun and relaxation. Feel free to bring a picnic meal. Tashlik and Havdalah services will begin at 6 p.m. We celebrate Sukkot, the Harvest Festival, and our wonderful Sukkot on Sunday, September 23rd at 6 p.m. There will be catered Italian dinner paired with a selection of Italian wines for our Sukkah oblation. And the price is $18 a person. Please RSVP by emailing or calling Kol Ami. Finally, Kol Ami's High Holiday Backpack and Supply Drive for Guatemala has begun again. Please bring new children's backpacks, unopened school supplies, coloring books, children's reading books and puzzles and games, and new sneakers for girls or boys in any sizes for ages 4 to 12. Donations can be dropped off here in the lobby or at the temple. And our members traveling to Guatemala will bring the children of La Antigua in January, where their school begins. And now I have the honor to introduce a longtime temple member, an active participant in our Sept, or Justice Council, Michael Sugar, to say a few words. Shana Tov.
Thank you, everybody, and Shana Tova. Thank you for just such a beautiful service. Just a great way to welcome so much to think about, and so much that is relevant to me. And Rabbi Chaiken in particular, I want to thank you in particular for your words tonight, because they so resonate with all of the things that I've been thinking about in preparing the words that I want to say tonight. Not just why be Jewish, but why be Kol Ami. So I also have to say, where else are you going to hear Misha Verak like you heard here? Only at Kol Ami. So my dad actually brought me to Kol Ami over 20 years ago. I walked into Kol Ami because he had passed away. My father Nathan had died. And I needed a place to say Kaddish. My parents were both Holocaust survivors. They knew a lot about resilience. And they passed that legacy on to me. My dad was a man of integrity. He was a man of strong convictions and deep faith. He had escaped Poland to Cuba and was ultimately smuggled into America, while many of his family members perished in the Holocaust. He was a leader in our Jewish community in York, Pennsylvania, all through my childhood. He wasn't well educated. He certainly didn't always have popular ideas, but his were ideas that were rooted in justice and in a willingness to evolve and to always keep up with the changing world. In our conservative congregation, he was the first to advocate for inviting women on the bima. Even some of his best friends and fellow synagogue board members disagreed with his position on equality for women. I believe that my passion and sense of justice comes from my parents, though they may not have consciously taught it to me. Maybe it came down through their DNA. On the day I walked into Kol Ami to say Kaddish for my father, I had been disconnected from my Jewish roots for many years, but I knew that it would have mattered to him. I had developed my own sense of activism and social awareness during those horrible early AIDS years, instinctively acting on the things that my dad taught me, consciously or not, about doing what's right, about justice, about being awake in the world to what's happening around me, and what role it is my responsibility to play in seeking justice. I didn't exactly understand then that those values are the very core of my Jewishness. And that's what I learned at Kol Ami. My dad would love Kol Ami, by the way. He would just love it. I'm actually sure that he's with me tonight here. I came to say Kaddish at Kol Ami, and I found a home where I immediately felt welcome and connected to a community that is a safe place for private introspection, as well as for meaningful dialogue and learning about our faith and what's happening in the world, and how it all connects, how it all comes together, and what role I'm called to play in it. I'm not always the most active member of Kol Ami, but every time I show up, I feel enriched. I feel nourished by Rabbi Eger's leadership and the amazing relevance she always brings to our services and to Kol Ami's beautiful and often very creative presentations and interpretations of our traditions and rituals. These are all facets of the voice of our people that Kol Ami embodies and inspires. Kol Ami is my anchor. This is where my heritage, my spirituality, and my sense of social justice became one. It wasn't an accident that this is where I wound up. It was beshared. It was meant to be. Welcoming a new year is a perfect time to think about the value of this precious community where we learn and work together to create a world filled with love and compassion and decency and fairness and peace. As we welcome this new year, I'm thinking about our opportunity to be part of something that goes way beyond the boundaries of ourselves and extends to the world all around us and the generations beyond ours. That's what Kol Ami represents for me. I'll tell you the truth. When Rabbi Eger asked me to do this, I wanted to say no. This is the part of the High Holy Day services that always makes me want to just get up out of my seat and bolt for the door. But I didn't say no. I said yes. It wasn't a complicated thing to do. It was actually a little bit of a stretch for me. So, I'm asking everyone to join me in saying yes to being a larger part of everything that Kol Ami stands for. So please join me now and take out the envelope, your bulletin, and the pencil, and give generously. Give as generously as you possibly can. The envelope, if you have it already located, is inside the bulletin. There's a pencil inside as well, and there are ushers that are going to be going around to collect them. If you just hold them up in the air, please. Please, I'm encouraging everybody just to stretch a little bit and give what you can. I don't want the board members behind me nudging each other and whispering to each other, we should have asked somebody else to do this. This is really important. Think about what brings you to Kol Ami. And if not now, when? And I think Barbara Streisand said that in Yentl, so it must be true. As you're filling out the envelopes, think about what Kol Ami means for you. Think about what we can continue to create together in the new year and beyond. Think about what we're all part of when we contribute to Kol Ami. Your generosity supports all the programs Kol Ami offers at no charge. Everything from museum outings, educational programs, tourist study, wonderful monthly HIV luncheon, which has had a significant and profound impact on my own life. Music events, films, presentations by spiritual and government leaders. All of these things that Kol Ami offers represent a deep commitment to keeping Judaism alive for future generations. We cannot take this for granted. It doesn't happen by itself. Please give generously so that all these programs can continue to thrive. This is the time of year for us to commit to being part of the growth and vitality of our Kol Ami family. Kol Ami events are open to everyone, members and non-members. So let's all do our part to keep these vital events and programs alive. This is our opportunity to support this amazing community. It's also, if I may remind everybody again, a great time to be sure that you are registered to vote and to commit to casting your vote in the midterms this November. And may we all have a sweet new year filled with good health, love, and justice, and peace.
You know, if you gave enough during the holidays, I wouldn't have to bug you the rest of the year. I know you get really tired, but if we could do it now. $100,000, that's what we need between now and the end of Yom Kippur. I'm being really serious. Because dues don't do it. So, I'm just putting it out there. If I can imagine it, that's our theme this year, right? Okay, I'm imagining it. Again, I'm so delighted you're here. I'm so delighted that you're celebrating the New Year with us. It's the 27th High Holy Days for Kol Ami. So it's a huge family we all share together. Many of you we've been together for many years. It's always a pleasure to welcome home Rabbi Yossi Karen, who was our first cantorial soloist. Welcome home. Glad to have you here. It's always so nice to have you be with us again.
At this time, we're going to continue our service. I'd like to call to the front row Marie Blank, Alvin Gross, Elise Resch, and Arlene Drake, if you'll come to the front row, and then come forward to the Biba, Keith Rand and Councilmember John D'Amico, Wendy Glenn, and Marianne Lowenthal, who'll join us on up here. We are now turning in our prayer books to page 82 for the Aleinu L'Shabeach prayer. Are you there yet? Next time, okay. Welcome. We're always so glad to have a city council member from West Hollywood in the house. Please rise for the Aleinu L'Shabeach, page 82.
Aleinu l'shabeach Adon HaKol, Latenu Lahu Yosef Reshit, Shelo Asanu Kivrei Aratzot, Velo Samanu K'mishpechot Ha'adama, Shelo Sam Chalkeinu Bahem, V'Yor Aleinu K'chol Hamonam, V'anachnu Borim, U'mishtachavim U'modim, Le'lifnei Melech, Malkei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch.
We continue in English at the top of page 85 or on the screen. May the time not be distant, our God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when lies and bigotry shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. So may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Amen.
No holidays complete without remembering our loved ones who've died in years past or in recent days. Their memories are so close to us, we feel we can reach out and touch them. Tonight we're observing the Yorkshides of Philip Fivish, father of Sam Fivish, Abraham Lelyveld, father of Phil Lelyveld, husband of Addie Lelyveld, Lee Vaughn, father of Robin Vaughn, Donald S. Workman, father of Doug Workman, Emma Pearl Allen, mother of Carolyn Dye, Isaac Cinnamon, uncle of Erwin Alexander, Nathan Elkins, grandfather of Kim Bergman, Ruth Friedman, great aunt of Daniel Blatt, Barry Kaplowitz, cousin of Karen Seidman, and Marjorie Kogan, mother of Barton Kogan. And we're reciting Kaddish this year for Bob Wakehoff, Uncle Peter Mackler, Salvador Mnuchin, Bruce Weems, Terry Barnett, Marilyn Belenke, Max Snow, Joanne Riegler, Molly Melnick, Mildred Banks Royer, Julius Lester, Rabbi Isaiah Zeldin, Dolores Mealy, Irvin Weinstein, Ruth Lowen, James Norton Adler, Pedro Balderas, Terry Kornbluth, Brian Garfield, Greta Rosenblum, Connie Cohen, Ruth Bergen Rothenberg, Tara Eisner, Lillian Levin, Hillary Blumfeld, Jeffrey Randazzo, Jonathan Keynes, Marvin Schultz, Cynthia Jacobson, Vasily Churkin, Arthur Stein, Billy Lobo, Beatrice Ellison, Bernie Bacra, Rosalie Rosenfeld, Barbara Albert, Rita Norton, Larry Wagman, Bob Torrey, Meyer Gallagher. We note with sadness the death this week of Rita Weiss, cousin of Dan Black.
Are there others that you're recalling at this season? If you would say their name aloud at this time. Together, we have brought their memories so present in this holy space. We turn now to page 90 as we praise God and bring their memories alive with the words of the Kadisha tomb, the mourner's Kaddish, as we say together. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamach divrach yutei v'yamlich machutei, v'chayachon v'yamechon v'chayei v'chol beit Yisrael, v'abala v'yizman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah v'barach le'olam le'omaya, v'yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitkavar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei Kedusha barichu, Leila, Leila, Mikol, Birchata, Vashirata, Tushbachata, V'nechemata, Da'amiran, V'yalma, V'yimru, Amen. V'hei Shlom Arama, Min Shemaya, V'chayim, Aleinu, V'yal Kol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, V'roma, V'yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'yal Kol Yisrael, V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'yimru, Amen. May the one who makes peace in the highest of heavens teach us to make peace here on earth with one another and grant eternal peace to those who died. And together we all say,
Amen.
A special Oseh Shalom. Elisa, Eileen, would you join us? And I hope to see you all tomorrow morning and then later for Yom Kippur. We have Murray and Alvin, Elise and Arlene to help us with the Kiddush. We join on page 79 of your Machzor for the words for the Rosh Hashanah Kiddush. Cantor? Friends, we've prayed together, we've imagined together, we've dreamed together, we've hoped together. Let the words that we've shared, the smiles that emanate from our souls, continue to lift us up, bring us into the new year, and let that new year be filled with love and kindness, with justice for our world, with great hopes and dreams for each and every one of you, hopes and dreams fulfilled, so that together we imagine a new world for not just the Jewish people, but for all people. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, may God bless you and keep you. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka, may God's face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom, may the Holy One of Blessing grant to you and of those you love a new year of shalom, peace of heart and mind, of home and soul and our world. Shana Tova Umetuka, a sweet and happy new year, everyone.